What's up, y'all? Let's Tribe 2.0, y'all. Let's talk about chapter 16, 17, and 18. So, listen, things start getting a little dark, y'all. Things start getting a little dark. Let's talk about it. So, chapter 16 starts off with Foster meeting Hester at her door, wanting to know where she was the night before. First of all, sir, you are not my father. I don't owe you nothing. I don't know what makes you think that it is your place to talk to me about anything dealing with my life, okay? But Jeannie, little sneaky ass, done went home. Sneaky tail, my bad. Then went home back to Foster, and she done flipped the script because see, she wasn't too sure whether Galen and Foster could, Hester could be trusted. So she was like, "Let me get to him before they get to him," and she done flipped the script and told them that Galen done threatened her and that she walked in on them having sex down to the school versus the other way around. And Hester was like, Foster, like you know me. Like what are you talking about? Like, bruh, I was gonna marry you with no sex. What makes you think I'm out here just giving it to everybody, okay? I mean technically you are, but I mean not down at the schoolhouse. I mean you wouldn't be so gauche to do that. So Foster said, "Well, listen, I tell you what, I don't appreciate him threatening my wife, and don't make me have to let everybody know what you was down there doing, cause you the one. And why would you let him turn you into his whore?" And she was like, "Excuse me, sir." Like, okay, now you've done enough. You've said enough. It's time for you to go. You can exit yourself out of my house. Stage left. So then she goes down to the hair salon, and it's the total opposite at the hair salon. Down to the hair salon, the ladies are saying, "Are you gonna marry him?" See, um, Foster tried to make it seem like she was gonna be his hoe. The ladies down to the salon was like, "You getting married? Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, can we be in the wedding? When is the wedding?" And all of that. And I come to find out, Viola was the one spreading that rumor. Remember, Viola down to the party said, "I saw how they was looking at each other, honey. I ain't stupid. I know what it is. Okay." So Foster then rolled his happy tail on over to Galen's house and challenged him to a duel. Really, Foster? Really? A duel? Okay. All right. So Galen was like, "Listen, first of all, I'm not even trying to do that to that little boy. Like, I will hurt him. Second of all, because they went and got Hester was like, you need to come down to the house because he's threatening to go out here and act a fool. So you need to come down there and calm the dragon down." And so she gets there and they explain to her what happened. And he was like, "Listen, you just got to marry me. Like, I'm not going to have your name drugged through the mud. I'm not going to have people talking about you like, you're out here, you're some common whore. Like, I'm not going to do that to you. So you already might be carrying my child. We're just going to get married. I want to marry you anyway, bruh." She was like, "No, we're not." He said, "Yes, we are." She said, "No, we're not." He said, "Okay, when the next time? When next time you going to church?" She was like, "Sunday, when everybody else go to church." So he said, "Then fine, I'll see you there on Sunday." Baby, she gets to church and people won't even look her in the eye. People that she thought was her friends won't even make eye contact. And so clearly Foster has made good on his threat to let everybody know that she a hoe, okay? Now B and some of her other real friends, they stood by her side. They let her know that they still loved her, and all of that. But she said it was just very hurtful that people she thought she was cool with could be so easily swayed that she was this horrible person. But y'all know how things were back then. Well, I mean, shoot, it's still like that now, child. The right people tell the wrong story, and it is a whole other conversation. Um, um, Galen walks in. Of course, it is a hush over the church, baby. The preacher starts preaching fire and brimstone and how horrible it is to be a hoe. And the Galen stopped him in the middle of his sermon and was like, "Look, clearly you speaking about. We all know you talking about Hester. So let's just go ahead and end this whole thing right now. And Hester, will you marry us? Because I'm not gonna allow her reputation to be sullied this way. She gonna be my wife." Hester was like, and the pastor was like, "Well, okay, I guess we're gonna go ahead and do that." And Galen marries her and whisked her off, honey. And of course, everybody thought that what he did and the way he did it, everybody understood his sentiments, but everybody was like, well, when I say everybody, I mean like the people around him, like Maxie, um, Raymond, was like, you can't make that woman marry you. Like, we know that you love her and she got you, but you can't just make that woman marry you. But it was very convenient that Foster was going around like sullying her reputation. So baby, they get married, honey, and he ends up taking her back to the house. Um, and she becomes Miss Vashon. And immediately her life changes. Like, I don't think she understood just how rich this man was. He takes her into the room, into this back room, a dressing room off the bedroom, and it is full of clothes for her. And basically, he was like, he had actually started buying clothes for her when he left, after Levesque rescued him, when he was still recovering from his injuries as the Black Daniel. Like, that is how long he had been buying clothes for her. And he was like, admittedly, at first I thought she could be a good mistress, somebody to add to my little stable of rotation. But slowly but surely, I realized that it was more to me than that, and it was more serious to me than that. And so he just has, all of these clothes and slippers and gowns and just all kinds of stuff. And she was like, this is ridiculous. They won't let her do anything. She was like, listen, I'm not used to being a woman of leisure. And Maxie tells her, well, you just need to get used to it because this is your life now. And she says, well, wait, she asked him, well, where am I going to sleep? He was like, you're going to sleep where I sleep. And she said, well, I thought that wives and husbands didn't sleep together, that mistresses, but that. He said, listen, you're going to be my wife and my mistress. She was like, what? He said, listen, you gonna be my wife and my mistress. Ain't nobody got time to be doing both, okay? That life, I done been there and I done done that and I done left my life, I done left that part of my life behind. And so later on that night, they're having dinner and he has a trail of gifts for her that he's left all along. And of course, he bought her all of these gloves, all these beautiful gloves. So one of the gifts was, what was the first? Oh, an orange, right? Because remember, she liked the oranges. The second gift was a little crystal container full of vanilla from Madagascar. Because remember, she likes that vanilla honey. She likes that little vanilla. And so, Madagascar has, some of the best vanilla beans. And then the third one was diamond and sapphire earrings to match the dress that she had on that night, which was a sapphire dress. He had actually picked it out for her to wear. And of course, they have a wonderful, wedding night. Okay. So, and they really, really get to know each other. They really, really get to know each other. So, her auntie Racine is gone to visit the grandmother. Grandmother ain't doing too well. She's sick. And so they hold on, y'all. Hold on. Let me get to the part where I am. So over dinner, I skipped over dinner. I'm sorry. Some nice things. So over dinner, she gets the story of how he became the Black Daniel, and he said, it really was quite by accident. Um, I lived a very privileged life. We found out that his family was actually, they came over as slaves, but they were freed in the 1700s. So he's like um, third generation freedman. And so he's never known slavery. He's never known anything about slavery other than, that it's an atrocity like everybody else. And so he says, I really was a privileged kid that was just living, my privileged life. And I ran into a friend of mine that I had gone to Oxford with over in England. And come to find out, his sister had been sold into slavery. He was freed because his master freed the boys, but didn't free the girls. And she was going to be sold to a brothel down in New Orleans. And so, come to find out, they didn't know who the person looked like that was coming to get her. And so, he posed as a Frenchman, from down Louisiana that, was coming to collect his slave. And ended up freeing the sister and everything. And he talked about how that evolved into him becoming a conductor. And he said, before that, I really was just out here living my life, being the privileged guy that I was raised to be and really not thinking nothing about it. And then when I did come back to the United States, I would do little things to play in the face of slavery and segregation, I would pass as white, or Brazilian, these exotic things where people with your dark skin is, acceptable. So he passed as a Brazilian prince and stayed in the best, suites at the hotel. And he would do these little things to play games, he said, but it wasn't until then that I became serious. And, when he said that, that really made me think about, like, when I try to talk to people about racism. And I think sometimes people think I make excuses for racism. I'm not making excuses for racism, but what I am saying is that you can be ignorant, and being ignorant doesn't automatically make you a racist. And we make assumptions that everybody just knows certain things. But if you weren't raised a certain way, you don't have that same level of awareness. And he was living the life of a privileged person who never had a slave. And even when he did, he could pass when he wanted to and get away with it, and it was a game to him. So anyway, but of course he's now way woke, as we would say. He woke, he woke. And so that was that. Okay. So Galen ended up having to go do some work for the rail. I said the railroad, the underground, well, railroad, but anyway, he had to go do some work, and so she was sort of by herself for a while. He said, I'm gonna be gone for a while, and she ends up going to church for the first time since the wedding, and finds out there's a whole family pew that Galen had put into the church that was his mom's pew from, I guess, her church. He's made a nice little gift, nice little donation to the church, and of course, everybody is looking at her like, girl. We find out that that Andre Renault doesn't just work for him, but Galen actually saved his life. He rescued him out of a bordello when he was 5 years old, and raised him, paid for his schooling. Well, not raised him like his son, but paid for his school and made sure he was raised good. And he's been working for him ever since. Then chapter 18 gets really dark, you guys, and some things start really happening. Now, we already had the situation with the Blackburns, and it seemed a little weird. But then we had a raid by Samuel Creighton. We had another raid by the slave catchers on Samuel Creighton and his son Peter. Now, they left the wife. They beat her up, probably did some other things, But they left the wife, but they took the two boys. And a posse went after them to try to find them. But they weren't able to get them. But in the interim, Hubble died. Now remember, if you remember Hubble was the guy that was in love with her aunt, and they never did anything about it because he didn't want to betray the vows he had made to his wife that was still in slavery. Hester was very upset by it because she was a very dear friend to her. He helped, he was like a pseudo uncle to her, and she was really, really upset by it. She went back to her house to get some stuff for the funeral, for the funeral, for the repast, some platters and stuff, and she found there were two runaways that were hiding out of her house. They had been here for like 5 days because, of course, she's a conductor, and that's what happens. And they hid them again because Shu and his little posse came around, and he basically threatened her, and he let her know. He said, "Listen, some people been telling me some things about you, and I'm investigating because you weren't born free." She was like, "No, that's not a crime, is it?" He was like, "Nah, it might not be a crime, but I could smell a runaway. You stink." Mind you, there are two runaways in the barn right over top of where they standing at the time. Now, Andre Renault is there, and of course, Andre ain't gonna let nothing happen to her, okay? But he definitely threatened her. And then we had the funeral, which was, a sad occasion. It was raining and all that good stuff. And they decided to blend the runaways in with the funeral procession and get them to Canada. And of course, she figured Hubble would not have a problem with that at all. And then once again, Hester is thinking. She's like, the more and more I think about this, the more and more it just doesn't make sense. Like, it seems like the people that, because there were some other raids, and all of the people that were being rounded up were people who had nothing to do with the railroad. They were all people who were on the outside, looking in. They were runaways, but they were not active in the abolitionist movement. They were just running. They had just run away, and they were living a good life, minding their good business. Okay, and Hester is like something does stink, right? Something smells in the soup, right? Now Foster comes by the house and he wants to buy the land. And Hester was like, first of all, how dare you have the audacity to show up here? That's number one. How dare you have the audacity to show up here? Then you want to buy my land, and he talking about something. Well, why not? You don't need it. Rashawn has all this land. You don't need it anymore. She said, let me explain something to you. First of all, that is my family's land. I will never sell that land. Okay. Second of all, I would give that land away before I would give it to you. You tried to ruin my reputation. You tried to make me a town pariah. If Galen hadn't been the man that he is, I literally would be an outcast right now. And then he gonna say, well, you owe me. She was like, okay, now you gotta get up out of here. Now, I don't know what he seemed to think that she owed him for. But, baby. So, a couple of days later, Galen comes home. And, of course, they get reunited. I don't need to get into all the details of that. But she tells him what's been going on. And, he already knows it's a rat. He was never convinced that there wasn't one. He already know that there's a rat child. So, yeah, we'll be finished this book this week, you guys. And, that's just pretty much it. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in those comments. Peace.